Hey, hello everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is Hangout number 39. Or is it? Because I just went to check out some of my Hangouts and I'm like, why are there two 34s? What happened to 29? So, apparently I cannot count. So it's somewhere around 39. And maybe one day when I have the energy, I'll go back and change all the numbers so they actually go up properly. So, first of all, can everybody hear and see me before I get started here? And Florence is here, Ann is here, Molly's here. Let's see, Annie is here. Where? I'm looking, trying to look up where I'm going here. And who else is here right now? Oh, you can see and hear me. Oh, right. Oh, by the way, this is kind of funny because Ann said, so you always say you're hot. So, I always rip off my sweater. So Ann was very kind to send me Canada. Oh, this feels so good, Ann. Guess where Ann lives. I love it. It feels so good. Oh, and Lisa, Ann is here too. All right. Okay. I might just sit here for the whole show and just fan myself because it feels really good. Yeah, that's great. It's a great fan. Thank you. Thank you, Ann. Okay, now I'm going to take off my sweater. I can never make it through the shows with a sweater on. I just, But anyway, let me tell you, Ann says, lots of laughs. It's great. And if you didn't see my Amber Heard video yet, go look at that because Ann sent me these crazy glasses too. And I said, oh my God, they're just in time for this video. And I put them on. I'm like, oh, isn't this cool? So it made for a really great thumbnail. So thank you, Ann, again. Okay, so now, first of all, I just want to tell you what's coming up. On Friday is my Oceania show. And I'm going to be doing the Lundy murders. And Benny is really the squeaky wheel. And I know somebody else also asked me for that, but when I asked for the patron requests, I have a patron request list now, that was at the top of his. So I am going to do the Lundy murders in New Zealand. Very fascinating case about a man who got convicted of killing his wife and daughter, a family annihilator type thing. He's been in prison ever since, like 20 years now or whatever it is. But there's some very weird stuff with the prosecution's the evidence. So I'm going to. So it's going to be an interesting case to discuss. Is he guilty or not, or is it just that the evidence is just, a little weird? And then on Sunday, I had a request from Erica. She wanted me to do the Anthony Broadwater case. And that's the one where Alice Sebold, she wrote. She's an author. She wrote a book called Lucky. And in that book, she described a rape by this man, and she was lucky that he was actually convicted, and then she was able to figure out her life. A super popular book until they decided, he won an appeal and got exonerated, and she apologized to him, and then they pulled her, they weren't too happy with her book. They were going to do a movie about it, and they were like, that's out. So anyway, I'm going to put a link below to, not here, no, I'm sorry. For all your patrons who before Friday, I'm going to send you a link to a PDF file on that book because it's expensive. You can't get it on Kindle. It takes a while to get to you. But if you'd like to look at that book before Sunday, I'm going to send you a link to Patreon. So you can look at the book and see where I'm going to go with it and talk about the evidence in that case and what it means. Oh, okay. Lisa was also in. There we go. I knew there was like, there we go. Oh, really? Lisa says, thanks for doing the Lundy murders, my neck of the woods, even though I didn't know about it before Benny told us. Ooh, how about that? All right. Just because you live someplace doesn't mean you know all the murders that happened there. Maybe if you do, you got problems. Oh, wait a minute. Hi, Carrie. Carrie's here. Hi, Carrie. Lisa also said, I saw there was a Lundy appeal, so I thought there would be lots of material for you. I'm still working on it, so I didn't know there was yet a new appeal. So very interesting. Everybody's saying hi. Okay. All right. So that's where I'm going Friday and Sunday. One more thing before I start. I was going to talk about Delphi tonight as my kind of opening thing, But then I realized I have a lot I want to say about it, and I want a lot of the people outside of, my normal Hangout folks. I mean, a lot of people love Hangout, but they won't see the issue on Delphi, and I really want people to see this. So I'm going to, right after I finish this tonight, I'm going to do a whole separate thing on Delphi. A short thing, but a separate thing on Delphi, and the new leaked search warrant that came out, and what does it actually mean. And so that's what I'll be doing. So anyway, there we go. Oh, and I want to let you know, I probably will release this Hangout tomorrow, because anybody who tried to see the Johnny Gosh video on last Sunday, those who were here live saw it perfectly clear, but those who came later, it was freezing and it was lagging, and I was like, what happened? And I thought my internet was fine and no one complained. Turned out it was on YouTube's end. So as they were processing the video, it took them like 24 hours. And until 24 hours ended, it was garbage. And so people just quit watching it. They're like, I can't see this. So I know I have to maybe hold off on putting them out until the processing is finished, because it was really upsetting. But when the processing was finished, it was all good. So it's fine. So now everybody can see it. But I'm sure a few people just ran away, because they're like, she has a crappy YouTube channel. So anyway, and if you are here and you wonder who I'm talking to in the chat room, these are the wonderful patrons who support me on Patreon. There's 5 different levels on Patreon, and every level has something useful. And if you'd like to be in the chat rooms for the live shows, for the Hangouts, and for the phone-ins, do click below on the link to Patreon. It also supports a channel that does get demonetized. Oh, now we have a little $ too, so you can hit the $ and give a one-time, like, it's like a tip jar, but it's like a one-time support for the channel, which is cool. And by the way, like the video and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you know what's coming up. And also check the playlist, because people don't realize I have the playlist. You go through there, look for your favorite crimes, and you might find it on the playlist. So there we go. So well, that's true. Even YouTube has tech glitches. Hey, yeah, that wasn't even my fault this time. Wasn't my fault. Okay, so that's the business of the day. On to the issues of the day. Besides Delphi, which I say I'm going to just do. You can see it. I'll put it out tonight. As soon as I finish this show, I'll just do a short thing on Delphi and put it up. So now, I want to talk about something else interesting. Some of you are aware that when the new information, comes out on Madeleine McCann, I'm sometimes asked to do television, and they call me up and they're like, hey, can you do this? And I'm like, yes, but, and then they interview me and I tell them what I think about things, and then they dump me, because they don't want me to say those things. So I did a video on the one I got dumped off, I think it was Colin Brazier. And as soon as I found out I wasn't going to go with the program, they tossed me. Doesn't only happen with Madeleine McCann. Let me show you what I mean. So I get this one. This was yesterday. Okay, so this came in. Let me see. Here it is. All right. This is from the Jim Bohannon Show. Now I've done Jim Bohannon Show for years. I think a decade of doing Jim Bohannon. And then what happened was, there was a case, a story on a mass murderer, and I got on his show, and Jim and I got along great all the time until this show. And I pointed out on that show that, we in the media are really, by giving them infamy, and showing their faces and their name, we're just encouraging more mass murderers. He got very upset with me, and I haven't been on the show since. So anyway, I get this thing out of the blue. Pat, are you available from 10:05 to 10:15 ET tonight? 10 minutes via phone with guest host Don Giordano on the Buffalo Shooter. Thanks. This is from the producer. So I wrote back, John, I took a vow a long time ago not to speak about mass murderers, using their name and face and discussing their motive, which is that, boy, is that terrible typing. must have been on my phone, which is, they're getting publicity in the media and becoming infamous. And it's because we in the media only encourage more mass murders by doing so. The only way I do shows on mass murders is to do a segment with no mention of the killer, but a general question about how mass murderers behave, what is their motive, and how we in the media can lessen the publicity so that less psychopaths choose this method to get their day in the sun. I'm available for the latter type of segment. He writes back, understood. Let me check with Dom. Guess who I never heard back from? That was it. Evening came and evening went, and I'm like, okay, so I guess you don't want me on, do you? And this has been a problem, and I'm going to put a link to my YouTube video where I got on CNN. Only time I've ever spoken about the media's contribution to the increase in mass murder. I did that on CNN only because they screwed up. The producer asked me what I wanted to talk about. I told her, she must have been like 19 years old or something. She forgot to tell the host. They put me on, and the host was like a deer in headlights. She's like, but Pat, and so I said what I wanted to say. And it was pretty funny. But that was the last time I ever got to say anything because it was an accident, So usually the pre-interview, when I tell them what I'm going to talk about, that's it. They just cut me right there. And why won't the media talk about their role in encouraging mass murderers? Well, why do you think? They don't want to admit that it is a good portion of their fault. So we had 2 mass murders this week, and I'm not going to get into them. And the media is just running around with all kinds of claims, racial hatred, whatever, white supremacy on one, and the other guy was I believe he was Chinese and shot some Taiwanese people in a church. So they could call that a hate crime too. He hated their politics. But the point being that mass murderers want their day in the sun. And they're really not that racist or politically connected. Most of the time, they're just looking for what will get the most attention in the media. Okay? And depending on what gets the most attention, Miami school, shooting up a bunch of school kids, will that work? How about some people in a mall? What would the media really sink their teeth into? Ooh, maybe I should go for the racial element. Sometimes it has nothing to do with that whatsoever. The thing is that they want their day in the sun. Sometimes it's simply a midlife. There was one, the Texas mass murderer. I'm not going to put out his name, but because he was Muslim, people said, "Oh, he was killing people because of his religion." He did say Allah Akbar before he did it, but that had nothing to do with it. The dude was failing in his midlife crisis, and he hated his workmates, and so he went and shot up the base. It had nothing to do with who he was actually religiously. So a lot of times that isn't the issue, but the media will pull it out of there and make a big deal of it. So what happens is, no matter what their motive is, and the motive is just they want to feel good that day. That's it. Their life sucks, they want attention, and this is their day in the sun. That's really the motive of every mass murderer. So why do we keep making other motives up for them? It's because it gets ratings. And the more media does this, the more mass murderers go, dang, that really works. Because, I'm a total loser. But hey, if I go shoot up those people, I'm going to get my name in the news. I'm going to get all over the news 24 hours a day. This will be the one thing in my life I've done that people are going to say, oh yeah, I know that guy. So thanks a lot, the mass media, for encouraging these guys to go out and kill a whole bunch of innocent people. That's what I would have said on the Jim Bohannon Show. And that's what they wouldn't let me come on and say. So I say it here. So there you go. So I thought that it was just kind of interesting. It happens over and over, and people say, oh my God, what do you know? And when they do this to you, and I'm like, they do this all the time. But they do it most in the Madeleine McCann case and the mass murder issue. Those are the 2 biggies for me that they don't want me on. So, kind of interesting. Anyway, okay, I want to go on to some actual cool things where they've arrested some people who, thank God they finally got them. And One of them is, I don't know how many of you remember this case of Brittany Drexel. She went missing in 2009 in Myrtle Beach, and she went on spring break, and she's been missing for 13 years. I mean, they didn't know who killed her for 13 years, and I'm going to get into some of the interesting issues about some of the things in this case that got really crazy. But here's what happened. All right, so let me just I figured out finally I can use this. I can put up pictures on this show, and I always forgot I can do that. This is Brittany Drexel, and let's see who's the piece of crap that they've arrested. This is the piece of crap that they arrested. Okay, a lovely looking fellow. Good God, I'm not dating him. Anyway, so she went missing on spring break. Now, so his name is Raymond Moody. He's 62 years old. He was arrested and charged with a murder after her remains were found in a wooded area in Georgetown County, South Carolina last week. Oh, I guess they were missing. Okay, her remains. So the FBI says, in the last week, we've confirmed that Brittany lost her life in a tragic way at the hands of a horrible criminal who was walking our street. Okay, now, what happened was, Dawn, that's her mom, her daughter wanted to go on the trip, but she remembered telling her no because of a lack of parental supervision. She also had a bad hunch. You know, I think it's just general fear that mothers have, and usually your kids go away, even on a spring break, and they come home perfectly fine. You know, that's just, maybe they drank too much, or maybe they slept with somebody you didn't think they should have slept with, but usually they come home alive. She asked me if she could go, and I told her no. And she asked me why. And I said, because I don't know any of the kids you're going with. I don't. There's no parental supervision, and something's going to happen. I don't know if she meant something's going to happen by, anything. You could, you drank too much and you end up at the hospital for that reason, drank too much alcohol. But anyway, she went anyway to spring break to Myrtle Beach on April 22nd of 2009, despite her mother's wishes. 3 days later, the teen was seen for the last time on a hotel surveillance camera. She was leaving a friend's room at the Blue Water Resort to walk back to her hotel where she was staying, about a 1.5 mile walk down the busy Myrtle Beach Strip. She was about halfway to her destination when she disappeared. And there was surveillance footage, so they saw her, and then she was just gone. All right? Now, before I tell you a little bit about what happened was, this is, Drexel case has been around for so long and so many theories. That's what I want to talk about. Before I tell you why they got the right guy, okay? So let me go find, hold on a second. I opened up too many windows as usual. Is that her? Must be this one. No, that's the wrong one. Sorry about it. Okay, here we go. All right. Now, here's what happened. After she went missing, okay, then came along all the theories, all right? Lots and lots of theories. And this is why I always talk about, I don't like armchair profiling. It's not that I don't mind you looking at the evidence. I don't mind you having your thoughts. But I think what happens is all of this gets out of control. So what happened was, her mom started getting into the theory that she had been kidnapped into the sex trade. How many times do I have to tell you guys this? People do not kidnap people off the street for the sex trade. You don't have to, because all you have to do is lure them in. She's down there for spring break. She's cute. But there's a lot of cute prostitutes, there's a lot of cute runaways, there's a lot of cute drug addicts. You don't have to kidnap them and start a police investigation. You just say, hey, you want to make some money? And a drug addict will go, oh yeah, actually I do, because I need some stuff. And that's how you get people in the sex trade. You don't have to kidnap people into the sex trade. This is a ridiculous, outrageous, and very frustrating conspiracy theory in this country, which is driving me nuts because it's all over YouTube. Anytime anybody goes missing, like, remember the show I did on Sunday, Johnny Gosh. Oh, he was kidnapped in the sex trade. No, he wasn't. Jacob Wetterling. Who's kidnapped into the sex trade? No, they found out who killed Jacob Wetterling. It was the guy who lived right there. It's a sex predator. people who get kidnapped off of the streets are usually kidnapped by sex predators, not sex rings, okay? In other countries, where there's a lot of people in severe poverty, a lot of people moving around, and sometimes people willing to sell their kids or let their kids go places without much, those are kids who are pulled into sex trafficking, and they are kidnapped into sex trafficking. That does happen. Also across our borders, if you're coming in from the southern border, and you're going through, you're trying to escape your country, let's say El Salvador or Nicaragua or Guatemala or wherever, and you pay a coyote, you don't know what that coyote is about. He gets you across the border, and you may not be going to your auntie or uncle's house. You may be going into a bordello someplace. And they do have these versions of, they're kind of like basically an apartment house, and somebody just keeps you in their apartment and sells you out. That's sex trafficking. But they don't go kidnapping people who are going to be, basically start a big, huge investigation. That just drives me crazy because it's just not true. But then what happens is, if you read down through Wikipedia, and I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's insane. So there was these allegations. They were made by different people. Now listen to some of the stories they told. One was the Timothy Taylor allegations. Let me see what he said. Oh, okay. He said that shortly after Drexel disappeared, he had gone to visit a McLennan stash house to give money to Sean Taylor, Timothy's father. As he walked through the house, Brown had told Munaz that he saw Timothy sexually assaulting Drexel with others present. He continued to the backyard where he found Sean and made his payment. As they talked, Drexel ran from the house but was soon recaptured. Brown said he saw Timothy pistol whip Drexel, then take her back inside. He then heard 2 gunshots, which he assumed were the sounds of the young woman being killed. Brown claims to have seen a wrapped body being removed from the house and then dumped in one of the many alligator ponds in the area. And that was one of the things that went around. Let's see. There was another one here. Some more of that loser dude. Anyway, so here we go. Oh, here's another one. According to Brown, this is another guy. He had actually seen Drexel 4 times since her disappearance. In addition to the first encounter, Brown said he had seen her again a month later, and at that time she was killed. According to Brown, he saw Drexel being sexually assaulted by a group of 8 to 12 young men, at the stash house, 2 days after her disappearance. He didn't recognize her at the time, and then a second encounter happened a few days later, and then he saw a body being carried out in a body bag. All of this stuff. Okay, now... Anyway, it turns out there was no evidence of any of this crap, okay? So now they've arrested Raymond Moody. Who is Raymond Moody? He's 62. He's already a registered sex offender, okay? They had considered him a person of interest for a decade. And this is important because a lot of times on the outside, we don't know who they're looking at. And we may think they're doing nothing, but they've actually got somebody that just can't prove it. A week later, they recovered human remains buried in the woods off of a gated private drive outside Georgetown. And they identified Drexel through DNA. So now they arrested him, charged him with murder, okay? She had been strangled. So when she disappeared, get this, on the day she disappeared, they alleged that she had been strangled and then buried the following day. Oh, you mean like a sex predator? The usual type that kidnap you, rape you, and murder you on the same day and then dump you someplace? Yes, a normal sex predator. Now, let me tell you one more thing about this Raymond Moody dude. Hold on, I gotta find it now. Hold on a second. I just lost where I had it. Where'd it go? Oh, come on, don't disappear on me. I so hate when this happens. I had just had the thing up on my page. Why does it disappear now? Anyway, I can't believe it. It's vanished off my thing again. I have this problem all the time. So anybody who's ever hangs out at my Hangouts or my regular shows just says, oh, there she goes again. It's so frustrating. But man, so basically what happened is that body was found like 3 miles from his house. Okay, so I don't guess I don't need to pull it up. I just wanted to read it. But like, He knew where the body was buried. The body's buried right near his house. She wasn't kidnapped into sex trade. She wasn't held in some place and had, dozens of men raping her for a month and then finally killing her. No, that's not what happened. And the sad thing is that this goes on in so many cases. It always goes, it goes into these theories all the time because people do not understand how things work, which is one reason I have the channel, because it drives me crazy that people don't understand how things work. Okay, and speaking of that, let's talk about another one where people didn't know how things work. I'm going to try to find it. Okay, it is, I think I have it over here. Too many electronics. Okay, here it is. Okay, do you remember during the whole Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito thing, do you remember these two ladies that were murdered at a campground? These two ladies. They're a married couple. They were at a campground in Moab, Utah, about the time Brian Laundrie was running around and all that. And the claim was, oh my God, I think he killed them too. I'm like, Brian Laundrie isn't a serial killer, you know what I mean? He doesn't know these women. Clearly he wouldn't. He's not even from the area. So why would he kill two women in a campground? Gabby Petito, we know there was a domestic issue there. But why would he kill these two women in a campground? Now, I never got really good information about who these two, how these two women were in the area and why they were in the campground. I had originally thought they were camping, like they were vacationing, but they weren't. There are a lot of people who live in campgrounds because it's cheap simply to live in campgrounds, okay? Now, here's what happened. They have just they didn't arrest this guy, okay, because he's kind of dead. So it kills the arrest. But anyway, Moab suspect, and this is this dude. He's another charming fellow. His name is Adam, and my God, I cannot pronounce his name. Pinkoswitz. I don't know, I'm sure. It's Pinkoswitz. I don't know, I can't pronounce it. He was an early person of interest. You see how this goes? Everybody starts ruminating all over the internet when the police are like, yeah, we think it's that dude. Now, mind you, that doesn't always happen, but sometimes it does. Either if it's in a case where the person is most likely connected in some way, they know the person, then they're already on the suspect list on day one. And if they're a serial killer, which Brittany Drexel's that dude was, how he came into their line of sight, I'm not sure, but they did interview him and thought this could be this dude. And a lot of times serial killers are interviewed in the beginning, but they just can't get anything on them, so they keep interviewing more and more people. Okay, so he was an early person of interest. And now a private investigator hired by the victim's family. Okay, I never trust half these private investigators who will come up with anything the family wants. Says he had an alleged animus toward the two lesbians and skipped town shortly after the shooting deaths. Now, first of all, I don't know what he's saying here. I don't know if he's saying it's a hate crime or he had an issue with the two women because he just had an issue with the two women. Not everything's a hate crime just because somebody theoretically could be hated, I don't know. Apparently, this is what I did not know. He even failed to pick up his final paycheck from the job he worked alongside Turner. So he actually worked with Crystal Turner. So they knew each other. They worked in the same location. I think it was at McDonald's. So anyway, he left. He was familiar with his victims. And he abandoned his job, avoided picking up his last check, and then he vanished. He was a 45-year-old drifter in the days before the killing. He accused his manager, who was also in a same-sex relationship, of giving Turner special treatment. Okay, let me tell you something about psychopaths. They think everybody else gets special treatment. And if they can put something on it, well, that's because they're gay, or that's because they're black, or that's because whatever they come up with. Because they'll say that about everybody. So again, not necessarily a hate crime, but a hateful crime. Can't prove one or the other because he's probably a psychopath. Well, let me say this. He was a psychopath. All right. Now what happened is the last time they were seen alive was at a surveillance video in Woody's Tavern in downtown Moab. And the following morning, they're believed to have been killed. Schulte and Turner rode into town on a Harley-Davidson motorcycle and left it at the McDonald's parking lot, taking a car back to their campsite, which they intended to move after telling a friend a creeper had bothered them the night before. Now, some people think that this guy was the creeper. I don't know. If they saw him, they would know who he was, and that wouldn't be the designation they would give him. I don't know if they just saw some other weird dude and thought, it's kind of uncomfortable, or they saw somebody lurking in the bushes but didn't know it was this guy. I don't know. The fact that they left the bike in the parking lot, not in the garage, meant they planned to return soon. But he believes that this guy followed them up the mountain and ambushed them. So they don't know whether it's the same guy or not. But yeah, let's see what else they said here. Then he left. He told some people about the crime, and he knew things that supposedly only he and the killer and the police would know. And he was one of 20 persons of interest in the beginning, and then he killed himself. He's been dead since September. So, and that's that. So, again, we don't know. Is a psychopath. Don't know what his issue really was. No clue. At all, but now we know who did it. It's not Brian Laundrie, which made no sense to begin with, but there goes the internet with everybody going, oh my God, I think it's Brian Laundrie. I'm like, why would you think that? That's just insane, So, I don't know what you're talking about. It just blew me away when they started going on about that. I'm like, please stop doing that. Okay, so I just thought I'm glad that they caught the guy that killed Brittany Drexel after all these years, and I'm glad they caught this guy that killed this the couple in Moab. Thank God. Sorry that they didn't they had to meet up with those horrible creatures, but I'm at least glad they got these psychopaths off the street. All right, so now. What was I going to talk about? Let me see. Hold on a second. Let me find the rest of my info. Okay. Oh, this is just a fun one, because it kind of cracked me up. I got to find it. So again, patience. Where is it? And hopefully it didn't vanish on me. No, please don't vanish. Please don't vanish. Okay. Where did it go? Oh, here we go. I found it. Okay. So this one just cracked me up. Here's the story, the way it's said. Woman arrested after stealing $50,000 watch. That's one hell of a watch. I guess that's the Rolex Deluxe. I don't know what watch is $50,000, but okay. She got arrested after stealing $50,000 in cash from a hotel guest, police say. All right. Her name is Aniaja Pratt. Okay. Oh, and $50,000 in cash. $50,000 watch and $50,000 in cash. You really ought to, if you're going to run around, you really ought not be carrying $50,000 in cash. Why are you carrying $50,000 in cash? Who is this guy? Anyway, a woman in Las Vegas is accused of stealing a $50,000 watch and thousands of dollars. $50,000. That's not thousands, that's $50,000. From a hotel guest staying on the Strip. According to the arrest report from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, Aniaja Pratt stole the $50,000 Patek Philippe watch. Ooh, have never heard of that. $50,000 in cash that the guest had in a backpack. What was that dude up to? I'm sorry, but most people don't have $50,000 in a backpack. I want to know what kind of criminal thing he's involved with. And he also, let's see, what else is there? Okay, $500 from his wallet. All right, now listen to this. This is funny. Vegas police said the man told them he recalled drinking at a bar in the casino and then going back to his room. Now, one could say he got roofied, because we never think of men getting roofied. So that could have happened, but here's what I probably think happened. And then going back to his room. However, he noticed everything was missing when he woke up, including a $500 Apple Pay deduction. An Apple Pay. Is that the price she charged him for visiting his room, shall we say? I'm going to say it wasn't a date. I'm going to say she's a prostitute. All right. Police reported surveillance video showing an unidentified woman in an elevator with the man. So she didn't like break into his room. She was with him in the elevator. About 3:20 a.m. The video then showed the woman leaving in a vehicle registered to her around 6:25 a.m. The man was able to identify Pratt in a photo lineup. And they did a search warrant of the apartment. They did not recover the items, but they did find clothes resembling the outfit. What are they going to get her for? So this is interesting. Now, first of all, clearly to me, she's a prostitute, and he paid her $500. Now, did she do it or did he do it? He paid $500. Now, the next question is, did she really steal that watch, and did she really steal so much money out of his backpack, or is he a lying dog? Maybe he never had those things to begin with. What proof does he have? Maybe he's just, I don't know, whatever his issues are. Maybe she stole some money from him, like maybe she stole some money from his wallet, but then he's claiming all the rest. I have no idea, but I just think it's kind of an interesting story. It's like something's missing out of this story. Something about either he's a big fat liar or he's involved in some kind of drug-related thing, like he's a cartel guy or whatever, that he'd have that much money on him. And, so there's a whole bunch of suspicious stuff. So far, they've got her, but nothing that she supposedly stole. So I don't know if she's actually going to get, what are you going to arrest her for? He claims it, but, she could have handed it off to somebody, who knows, or hid it someplace. But I just think it's a funny story. It's like, that's an interesting one. I wonder what the real story is. It's just cool. And Amanda says, are men more likely to be psychopaths, or do men just manifest it more often with murder? Yeah, actually, Amanda, I do think there's a lot of psychopathy running around for both sexes. Men tend to be more violent with that psychopathy. Women tend to be more manipulative with that psychopathy. So, yeah, and that's why we see women tend to do less murders than men, because it's just that, when you think about things that get you a feeling of power and a feeling of, because that's what it's about. Any crime you commit as a psychopath is about power and control, making yourself feel great. So Amanda, you're right. So for men, wars and stuff like that. Think about it. I'm always surprised at how many men are like, I can't wait to go and go to like whatever country it is and shoot it up with some guns. And I'm thinking, you don't even understand what the war is about. Why do you want to go over there and A, get killed, and B, kill other people? What's so exciting? But there's something about the uniform and the weapon that does excite more men than women, okay? Women are more relationship oriented as far as that goes, and the home and the family and society. So you see more women getting their power and control that way than through homicide. Although the Munchausen syndrome by proxy people kill their little babies one by one because they get attention being pregnant, they get attention having the baby, and then the baby's a pain in the butt, so they kill the baby, then they get attention at the funeral, and they start the process all over again. So there's serial killers who make their own victims. Kind of brilliant when you think about it. And oftentimes nobody figures it out, They keep saying, oh, Sid death. So yeah, so it's interesting. But I think the psychopathy's there. It's just done in different ways. So that's a good question. I like it. Now, I want to talk about, there's, the other day, was it Benny who was talking about, I think I should put that link in the thing below. I think I will. Just a very funny video done by a comedian about people who bury people in shallow graves. It's funny as heck. And, it's a little sick humor, but hey, I get it. 'Cause yeah, I get it. Anyway, so there's two stories about shallow graves, which just made me laugh. So one of them is a woman. She killed, let me see if I can find her. Hold on a second. Where is she? Really, I have like 50 things open. That is not a good way to do things. Just one sec. I gotta wander through. What happened? Oh, come on now. Don't do this to me. I see the other one. Oh, here we go. Okay, I found it. All right. This one is woman arrested after body is found buried in a shallow grave in the backyard of the Miami Gardens home. Her name is Cleo Marcia Trice. She's age 50, accused of striking an elderly man in the head and strangling him until he died. Now, the police made the grim discovery after executing a search warrant at the house. The search warrant, they had some suspicions, so they got the search warrant. And they found the body of an elderly man buried in a shallow grave. And on top of the shallow grave, she put some plywood, because, that'll cover things up. Well, it'll keep the animals out. The raccoons won't be gnawing, So, anyway, so the neighbor says, well, I saw them putting handcuffs on her hands. And he said, I'm disappointed to learn what she had done. He was very frail. He walks with a stick lately. So according to the Trice arrest report, a neighbor called 911 on Monday and told officers that Trice told him, well, if you're going to bury people in your backyard, don't go tell the neighbor that you just did that. Seems like you shouldn't do that. But anyway, she told him that she had struck the victim in the head and then strangled him until he died before burying his body in the backyard. Yeah, very silly woman. Anyway, so then guess what he did? He called the police. Okay, police said they encountered Trice in the front yard of the home when they arrived, and she admitted to killing and burying the victim, identified only as an 81-year-old man. All right, so in the backyard, a wooden plank was found with dirt on top of it, covering the area where the victim's body was found, which might work because burying people in your backyard, if you're not a suspect and they can't get a search warrant, burying the body on your property has its advantages, especially if you're pouring some cement over it, for a nice new patio, things like that, burning it in a fire pit, but that's not a shallow grave. But anyway, this is what happened with them. Apparently the man and woman were married, but authorities said Trice told them she was in a relationship with the victim, but the relationship developed more into a father-daughter relationship. Well, yeah, because they've been together they've been living together since 2008, so we're talking 14 years, and he's a lot older than she is. So if they've been together 14 years, she was in her 30s when she met him, and he was a lot older. So I'm going to say that he was useful to her at that point in time. But I guess after a while, they weren't so husband and wifey anymore, and they had these physical altercations. I know she used to get angry with him every once in a while because he used to make a mess around the house. She said they've been living together since 2008, and they said that Trice had two personalities, calm and abusive. I usually see her husband outside in the veranda, but then a couple of days, I haven't seen him. Apparently she couldn't keep the secret any longer. It's just wow, I guess not. But what's interesting to me is not so much as she beat him, because I sort of get that. Because, you get in an argument and you freak out, and you're so angry, you just pick up something and go whackety, whackety, whack. Strangling people is another level. So, you got to wonder what was going on there. Now, Carrie has brought up the second one that I was going to do. I like the story of the man that had a heart attack burying the woman he murdered. That's my other shallow grave story. Isn't that funny? I mean, this is great. So, yes. A man dies of a heart attack while trying to bury his girlfriend's body after he murdered her. So he strangled her, and then he died of a heart attack while burying the body in the yard. So, he's I guess all that digging, Just so Joseph McKinnon told a neighbor that a hole he was creating in his yard, well, I think I stopped talking to the neighbors, was meant for a water feature to enhance his garden. But when a different neighbor subsequently spotted McKinnon, 60, lying face down and motionless beside the pit, on Saturday morning the police were called. We got there and determined he had a heart attack. There was no trauma to his body. With no one else at home, deputies set out to locate and alert McKinnon's next of kin. But we had a hard time finding her. She wasn't apparently in the home, nor did she answer her telephone. So they were searching for the living girlfriend, Patricia Ruth Dent, 65, and tried to reach her at a workplace, only to learn her co-workers had been texting her with no response since 7:30 a.m., which was not like her. So they went back to the residence. We continued to investigate the yard and this huge garden. The house had been freshly cleaned, but we were able to identify blood in the house that tested as hers. That took us back to the pit he was digging. We got down into the pit and started digging around. We uncovered it enough that we found black garbage bags. When opened, the bags revealed a body bound with tape, and a forensics team was called in. So yeah, that's basically what happened there. So she had been hit in the face, but that was certainly not a death blow. The autopsy proved she had died of strangulation. What is it? You just can't stop strangling. You know, you hit them, you just hit them enough times. You don't have to strangle, you know? And, you know, it's, to some extent, you're better off if you just hit them and you can say, well, you know, it was an accident. But once you start strangling somebody, you know, murder one just rolls right in. You know, it just doesn't really work too well. And then the autopsy proved he died of a massive heart attack. They theorized that after killing her, he bound her with tape before wrapping her body into 2 large trash bags and dragging her through the house to his truck, which he drove to his garden, where he previously dug the pit. Was he? So the question was the pit for a water feature, or was he planning to kill her and he just dug the pit for that purpose? That'd be interesting. They said it was very unexpected because there was no history of domestic abuse between the couple, but he attacked her, killed her, and put her in the pit, and he died covering her up. It's just like, wow. It's just like interesting. I mean, yeah, pretty bizarre. But I agree with you, Carrie. That story is just like, well, that solved a couple problems. One, we know what happened to her, and 2, we don't have to waste our money on a murder trial. I think that works out quite well. I'm kind of happy with that, you know, because that does save a lot of time. Okay, so I'm going to talk about one more thing. And this is something I'm curious of what you guys think on this. And this is the case of, there was a really horrific case, and I'm not going to show the picture of the cute little girl. It was really upsetting. She's 7 years old. Her name is Olivia Grace. 2 Virginia grandparents are facing murder charges after a 7-year-old girl was mauled to death by the family's Rottweiler. Little Olivia Grace's Floyd's parents are also facing felony charges. I'm not quite sure how this is working out. In the deadly January 29 attack at a residential home in Waynesboro. Okay. The step-granddad, Stephen Kachmar, and grandma Penny Lee Bachelor are facing up to 70 years behind bars if they're found guilty on charges of non-capital murder, involuntary manslaughter, child abuse, and possession of a vicious dog. Now, the point here is the vicious dog aspect of it. So, in theory, now my granddaughter lives with two German Shepherds and a little puffy, fluffy, little white puppy dog. But she lives with 2 German Shepherds who adore the heck out of her and protect her, you know, to the end of their lives. The question always is, and you know, there are certain dog breeds, and everybody always gets mad when you talk about those certain dog breeds and say it's not them, but a good portion of the time it is those certain dog breeds. And I agree that if the dog is well cared for and loved, it may not turn into any kind of killer. But something here, when they say vicious dog, they weren't saying, oh my God, we couldn't believe what happened. People had complained about the dog before. It had bit other people, and the neighbors were scared of it. And under those circumstances, where the dog was already questionable, they bring their granddaughter into their home to be killed by the dog. The parents let their child go to that home to be killed by the dog. And I have an issue with that. I mean, I know it's they look like a happy family. They know there's a wonderful picture. Oh, I'll just show you the picture. Okay, I didn't put it up there, but see, that's the father and mom, and the little girl is the one in the middle of them. Little happy kids, and you know, I'm sure they didn't send her over there to be killed. I doubt that was an issue, but you know, you wonder what's going on in the families. What kind of lives do they lead that this is something that they overlook, that there's a vicious dog. The dog is questionable, and you would send your 7-year-old over there. And a lot of times these kids are killed because nobody's paying attention to what's happening between them and the dog. There's no one there to break it up. And if the child does something, I'm not saying like the child was mean to the dog, but the child could just not realize the dog didn't want to be petted, or the child could have made some kind of move that the dog didn't like, whatever, and there's nobody there to protect her, and the child gets killed. Or the neighbor gets killed, and we see that happen, the person comes out of their apartment and gets killed by a dog in the hallway. And so the question a lot of times comes down to is, what do you charge people with? They were her grandparents and they were her parents, and I don't believe they intentionally wanted the child to die. But what do you do about people who turn a blind eye to putting that child in that kind of danger? Is it just because they loved the dog and thought the dog was fine and, oh yeah, bit somebody once, but hey, not a big deal. It's one of those things that's really hard to figure out how to charge them, because it's obviously neglect to some extent, that you're not paying attention to things as they are. They say abuse, because you put your child in a situation where it's abused. Do you, what do you do? And I think it's just one of these horrific situations where, I bet they loved their granddaughter and I bet they loved their daughter. It's just, but they didn't take care of her properly, and maybe they really didn't think that dog would ever do that. But what kind of charges do you levy against them when the child is dead? And she trusted her parents and she trusted her grandparents to make reasonable choices. Same thing happens with drug use. So somebody's using drugs in the home and they leave the drugs out, and the child gets hold of the drugs and the child dies of an overdose. They didn't mean to kill the kid, but there it goes. Anne's going with the murder charge. Now, I'm curious, Anne. Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, I kind of go with that myself, but I know I feel this weird thing where I'm just like, I know they didn't want her to be dead. I know they weren't planning. They didn't purposely kill her. It's weird. Wow, and murder. Definitely more than an accident, but not intentional, really. Well, it wasn't intentional, except for that the whole question comes down to this. If you know that you're putting the child in danger, and you're not willing to do something about that. So in other words, if you're doing drugs and leave drugs around your home, you are putting that child in a situation where they could easily die. If you put your child in a car and you end up drinking or something, getting really drunk, and then trying to escape the police with your child in the car, and you crash and your child dies, you didn't intend to kill your kid, but you're also a very good parent. The child, you are responsible for the child. So, it's really tricky. I don't have a good answer for it. I just think it's really sad, horrifyingly sad. Lisa S. says, adults must be responsible, period, especially when there are children around. And a history of an issue with that dog, yes, guilty. I do agree with that concept, that if they knew the dog was vicious, but then I don't know what quite vicious means. When people, this is the problem with media as well. Supposedly the dog had bitten somebody before, but under what circumstances? And what do they mean by a bite? Was it a nip, or was it the person ended up at the hospital? Which one would think, if that were true, the dog would have been already removed from the home? So I don't know exactly, what the circumstances were, but it's just questionable. I remember this, Molly. An amazing story is a lady, Shantae Mallard, who hit a homeless man who stuck in her windshield. She drove home and put the car in the garage and checked on him, but he died stuck on the windshield. I do remember that case, and I always felt like, I can't remember why she hit the guy, but one of the problems we have at night is that people who are homeless or drunk or pedestrians or bicyclists who wear dark clothes and are out there at 2 a.m. and crossing streets in front of us, or walking so close to the road that, it's easy to hit them. I can imagine when he went through the windshield, she was so stunned. She maybe just didn't know what the hell to do. And yes, should she have stopped and called an ambulance? Absolutely. But she could be so freaked out, she just drove home. Not the right thing to do, but it's fascinating. Yeah. Was she on that? Oh, she was on a lot of drugs. Oh, really? I don't remember that, Molly. Oh, the man begged her to get him some help, but she ignored him. Okay, murder. In that case, murder. All right, I'm going to go with that. I didn't remember that one. I mean, I remember the case, but I didn't remember why she. No, she may not have been guilty of hitting him for. In other words, that may have been his fault. I don't know again. But if he's there asking you for help and your answer to that is, no, let me drive you home so you can die in my garage, not quite the right thing to do. Let's see. Carolyn says, hi, Carolyn. Criminally negligent homicide, reckless endangerment. That's interesting. What did they say they got him for? Now I'm going to look back on what they charged him with. They went with non-capital murder, involuntary manslaughter, child abuse, and possession of a vicious dog. They're facing up to 70 years behind bars. So criminally negligent homicide, reckless endangerment. I'll go with that one. I think that's a good. I think that's a good thing. But just it's one of those things that's just so frustrating because, yeah, it's just frustrating. That's all I can say. Because I always wonder. That poor child just goes over there to play, grandma and grandpa's house and gets killed by the dog. It's just, yeah, it really bugs me. Anyway, that was my last one. It was a pleasant ending to this show, wasn't it? But I just saw that, and it's one of those things where I can't quite put my finger on my emotions on that, because this isn't a question of who's guilty of anything. They're guilty of allowing this to happen, but I always feel like it's just, when it comes down to grandparents and their children, grandkids, or I'm a grandmother, or the parents and the child, I always wonder, when it's not something like constant neglect and constant abuse or something, you just like that parent has, taken the kid to the hospital 70 times because they keep beating them. That's pretty clear to me. But when it's these things where they could have been happy and then boom, I don't know. Of course, here's the thing again. We don't really know. Was there a problem with the grandparents? Sometimes why people have vicious dogs is because they're drug dealers. That's sometimes true. And if they were drug dealers and had a vicious dog for that reason, book them. I don't have any problem with that. Same thing with the parents. So you see the cute picture. And the cute picture always gets you in the heart, but you don't know if they're really that nice, It's just a picture. Everyone went, and then they could have done, okay, let's go get the meth. We don't know. So it's hard to even make a determination, but, based on probably very limited information. Carrie says, depends on the definition contained in the statutes. Where did this happen? What did I just say? I'm not sure. Oh, it's Virginia. In Virginia, it's right down the road from me. Yeah, every state has different statutes and different statutes. They have statutes too. Statutes and every time when they go to prosecution, so much has to do with what will fly in the state, what you can probably charge them with and have a successful prosecution. That's a lot of times why we see things pled down to such lesser stuff because they just don't think they can win in court. And then you wonder, hey, that guy's really a rapist, but you just gave him burglary? Because they couldn't prove the rape, but they could prove the burglary. So it's tricky stuff when it comes down to actually what people are charged with and actually what they get convicted of. And that's why we have some criminals who are much more criminal, than we think, because we go online and we can look at their record. Like, I'm in Maryland, so I can go see everybody's record online, and I see things and go, oh, that's not so bad. But maybe that's not the original charge. Maybe that's not what they wanted to charge them with, but that's all they could get through the courts. So sometimes you just don't know. So anyway, that's it for tonight. I'm glad you were all here. This is great. And now I'm going to go and do the Delphi thing. I'm going to put Delphi up tonight because it's going to be short, so that'll process quickly. I'll probably put this show up tomorrow, so it won't screw up like my last one did, and I'll be sure the processing works so people can come and watch it and enjoy it who weren't here, part of the chat room. So, did you miss the whole show? Okay, Lisa, you came in late, I think. Did you? I think you must have, because I did the whole Drexel thing. So. Go back. Go back. So I did the whole thing on Drexel. So anyway, bye and good night all. Yes, it was great having you here. Yeah, that's, oh, thank you for throwing that in, Carrie. Confession in the Drexel with recovery of the remains. Yes, I went through all the different issues with that particular case, but very nice that they finally got that creep. Yes, you were late. Okay. But just rewind, tomorrow when it's on there, you just go to wherever you need to go, to see the rest of the show. So no, no. Wait, no, come on now, that's not happening. Lisa says, go back on the video before it gets taken down. It is not going to get taken down. Not happening. I didn't say anything in this video that was concerning. Most of my video, no, none of my videos, only one. Wait, one was taken down. One was taken down. And I edited it and put it back up, and that was the one on the family that hung themselves or got hung in Delhi, India. But that's the only one that ever happened to, and the only thing that happens normally is that they'll demonetize me because it's about a child, it's about suicide, self-harm, or maybe I said a bad word, and sometimes I have no clue why they demonetize me. I'm like, there was nothing in that. But, that's what they do. So, we hang in. Well, good night, everybody. And let me go take care of the Delphi case and check that out a little bit later. Probably about an hour it'll be up. And so, yeah, that's really, really interesting. But I just needed a little more focus on that to do it properly. So anyway, bye, everybody.